I feel so tall.
Yeah. Oh,
There we go.
throne.
Hi, welcome back to StoryHive On Location Kelowna. I'm Rob O'Day, and we're on location in Kelowna, with another episode brought to you by TELUS STORYHIVE. Today we are sitting down with Jake and Jai of SoulTech Audio. How are you guys doing?
Good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having me and welcoming me to your beautiful home and studio.
Yeah.
So let's dive in to your guys' story. Where you're from, how you got into music, and how we led to where you guys are today.
Yeah, I was born here. I've always been in Kelowna. I started when I was a kid. I was really into film, so I've always been sort of creative. And I would make like short films with my friends and stuff, but it takes a lot of work to get everybody together and do something. So then I figured out that I can make music just in my bedroom with minimal gear and everything. So that's how it started, and then I've just been doing it ever since.
Yeah, I am also born in Kelowna. Let's go. I left for a little while though. If you know where Dawson Creek is, shout out. Most of my family's there, which is why I went there. I was there for about 10 years, and then I came back when I was about 18. I kind of grew up with like music, always kind of being surrounded by it. My dad was like, he's like a guitar guy, so he had like a million electric guitars. And so one day he took me into the studio. I was about 15, and I was like, oh my God, I kind of like what they're doing. And then so I went to school for it at the college and has been doing it ever since, and with this lovely human. So yeah, it's been great.
That's awesome. Both from Kelowna. What initially got you into... I might take my sweater off. It's a little bit toasty in here now that I've been roasting around. You're good. What got you initially into music from making music into wanting to be a producer? Because producing is it's a very unique person, takes a very unique person to want to sit behind the computer making the music and making it sound perfect versus the ones who create it. What led you to the passion of recording and engineering?
For me, I think I just wanted to always be doing it, and there's only so much that I, as like an artist, can conjure up constantly. If I have a bunch of other people all working on music and I'm just a part of it, then I'm sort of just always in that environment. I also just found a love for the creativity of that side of things. So like, it's not all just you. You can kind of contribute to a bigger thing with multiple people. Yeah, I think that was most of it for me.
Yeah. Oh man. I think it's like I originally went in to do it because I wanted to just do everything and learn everything that has to do with music. And I was like, I have to just soak it all in. And then I was like, oh my God, I can learn how to produce for myself and then create my own music so freely. And I know like all the terminology and like to capture a specific sound, I could just do it. You know, I don't have to tell anybody to do it. And then, you know, doing it for myself has been so much fun. And then doing collabs, and I was like, oh man, like working with other people and getting like their songs also up there. I just want to do it overall for myself, for everybody. It's just been so fun going along the whole process of music making. So yeah.
I could say too, actually, that like when you get a song that somebody else has made that is really good, and you get to add your sort of creative input to the mix or whatever, even if you haven't actually done anything musical, like playing any instruments or anything like that, just being able to add like on the technical side, a creative touch to it is like just as exciting to me to some level of like fully producing or like writing or any of the other processes of the song.
I find that a beautiful thing because I call it ear candy. You know what I mean? It's the little things that a producer puts in that musicians don't think about, because the musicians, when they're sitting down, they're focused on structure of the song and how it's built and how they're performing it, mainly the performance. When you have an outside perspective who gets to sit down and say, hey, a little bit of reverb here or some delay here that echoes slightly, that just really is what the listeners hear and what they fall in love with. And I don't think
And the listeners often don't even really know what they like about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of a magic in itself, because
Yeah.
on our side, we know what is making this happen. But
And how hard it is.
yeah,
We're like
but it
weird-
creates... Sorry.
We're like weird, like, emotion manipulators in some
Yeah.
grand scheme.
Yeah, there is like a psychology to it, I suppose. Yeah.
Do you find that, I tend to ask this question with producers a lot, is because you work with frequencies, and frequencies were built on frequencies. The whole universe is built on this frequency and these terms, and being able to manipulate those. And I think EQ is a very underrated aspect of where you can boost certain frequencies. Do you feel like if when you're producing music that after you're done the EQing, there's a different, I want to say a warmth to it, because that's what we call it, right? Is that warmth that you're bringing out and that body that you bring out, because you get it and it's flat. And it's like, yeah, you can record it great, but once you get through that process of EQing, you've kind of created this new resonating tone from what the band did, and it's based on your ears. Do you find that difficult between the two of you to figure out where the medium ground is for working together?
Like sort of different creative styles.
Yeah,
when it
because you
comes to
hear,
some things.
you'll maybe hear different frequencies, or where a frequency will pop more than another person's ear. Do you guys work together when you're mixing, or do you do separate projects? And when you do work with each other, do you find it maybe not so much difficult, but like, is it a cool experience trying to figure out that middle ground for where both your ears have found your happiness?
Most of the projects have been, we work on our own projects for each step, sort of. So,
Okay.
like, I guess I could explain sort of how we generally go about it between
Yeah.
the two of us.
That makes more sense. So
Yeah.
we'll hop into
Well,
the workload.
Usually she'll do most of the recording sessions for bigger things. I do a lot of, like, solo artist record, like, I
Okay.
do a lot of hip-hop and stuff, so, and we'll often just do it here in this booth. But for, like, bigger bands and everything, it's usually she's the recording engineer. Sometimes
Okay.
I'll be there, too, but she takes on most of that. And the live stuff is mostly her. And then I do a lot of the mixing and mastering. But both of us do all of it, but it's just sort of how it's naturally categorized itself, I guess. I just like to be behind the desk, and she's very people-focused. So. But yeah, sorry, back to the original question.
Oh, I have something to add to that question because I love that shit. God damn. Oh, man. I love talking about that kind of stuff. When I'm mixing and there is like digital analyzers everywhere and I can like see what I'm doing, I end up with like an EQ at the end that has no soul. Oh, because I'm focused on everything technical, and I'm trying to explain it away. But here we have, Jake was just telling you earlier that we have 8 input channels that we mix on this Allen and Heath analog board. And me not being able to see anything, end up with EQs and mixes that just hit. And it's because I'm feeling it. I'm literally mixing with how I'm feeling. And oh man, I'm so grateful that you installed that, because yeah, all of a sudden every mix feels elevated. I love that. There you go.
I think, yeah, like EQing and things like that, from a technical perspective, should just be to help you understand what you're doing. Like seeing like in a DAW, seeing all of these like frequency spectrums and stuff. I think it should just be like a tool to understand, but it shouldn't influence the way that you feel what you're doing when you're mixing, for me personally.
I find that's where, like, when I'm producing my own music at home, and when I released my last EP recently in May, doing the mixing for that was the first time I've ever actually taken the time to really understand compression, EQ, all the different types of compressions as well, because I only thought it was just adding one compressor. I didn't realize there was different uses for compressors and what they can do. And my drummer brought me through a crash course, and I personally love to create the melodies, the songs, and be the composer. But when it comes to the sitting and producing, I'll pull my hair out.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like, I can't get that kick to hard enough, or the bass is just like, like
That's when
didn't.
you get stuck too, because it's just like you're in this endless cycle of like trying to fix something only from a technical perspective to achieve a feeling. but feelings aren't technical, so you run into this like brick wall.
Yeah. How do you manage to overcome that when you're faced with that in a mix?
I've, I've, l- I'm still very bad at doing this, but I've learned to step away for a while because usually I'll obsess over it for a long time. Like, oh, I got to get this like just right, and it's usually something nobody else will even notice or hear or care about. But it's something that I do, and in the moment I realize like I need to come back to this later. I don't know if you have any.
Yeah,
insight.
most of the time I find myself, if I'm ever doing that, it's overmixed. I just start taking off plugins and seeing if the soul comes back. I'm like, okay, what did I overdo here? Because this is totally, and every single time it is because I did overmix it because I was too like focused on it. So like walking away, like what Jake said, giving your ears a freaking break. Okay, freaking, they get tired. And you hear things so differently when they are tired, when you're tired. So yeah, just start seeing, bypass your shit. Just bypass it. See if you actually did make it better.
Yeah, and ear break is almost one of the most important things you can do when you're working on music, I think. Like, it's almost as valuable as, like, the knowledge you might have about mixing. Being, like, having the power to step away and, like, reset a little bit. Otherwise, you're just going to keep running into a wall.
I think there's a very key point that you just brought up, and that's my buddy Salem says that when he builds his songs, he always builds them, all the ideas in the first 32 bars. And then he starts to just copy paste all that and then subtractive create, where he's taking the parts so that he's building the structure backwards. So he gets all his ideas out, but I'm like doing that in the mixing aspect, where it's like, okay, it's too compressed and it's like it just sounds like blah. Taking things off, definitely never thought of. Like, that's a epiphany for me. Like, oh, probably what I needed to do more than
That's like
adding.
that's a big Rick Rubin thing, too. That's what he's all about, is, like, subtracting things, minimizing stuff.
Totally.
I think that's brought him very far, so.
Yeah, him and Flood are two producers that are just amazing with what they do. And I think it's because they're based off feel and not what they're taught in the school. And I think that's one thing, too, is I had a hard time. I was going to go to Cato, and because I was more the composing aspect I really liked, realizing that production is kind of not me or my forte was a good thing ahead of time before going to the school, because I feel that when I stepped into the producing hat, it kind of ruined my love for music, because now I'm starting to break other people's music down and
Yeah.
can enjoy the
know
song
too
for what it
much.
is. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're starting to like, oh, how do they do this? How do they do that? And to be able to like enjoy what it is as a whole again, I'm happy to finally be at that place, because for a long time, it took me a long time to, even my music, where I'm listening to my music back, is just, it's not the level I want it to be. And that frustrates me, because I'm like, I'm at my skill, like, echelon. I can't get any higher unless I go to somebody else to do the job for me.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where you guys are the most valuable, because producers don't get enough credit. Like, we know the rock stars, we know the musicians. They're not the ones who finish the product. They do the starting of the product. They record it. They aren't the ones who give it that life at the end of the day, though. But producers are, the job itself is very needed. Not in just music, but like we were talking about our friend Alex. He does podcasts. You can do audio for so many things, and you're an instructor. So you get to teach people, which is perfect segue into how did that come about, first of all, and has being able to be a teacher helped you become a better producer with patience and understanding the craft itself?
Oh, yeah. They say the best way to learn is to teach, and they totally aren't lying about that. I learn so much from the students. Like, as we're saying, creative types go into programs like that. And so obviously you're going to get like 30 different minds on a topic that you give them. And it's so cool because it's like really, like, you can be like, okay, who's tired today? Who wants to do something fun? And as like the instructor, you can be like, well, we're doing this today because I'm going off of vibes and everybody loves it. And like, and then, so we could do like recording, and then they'll try something totally different with the way they like are miking things, that I'm like, I always emphasize that these are all guidelines. Please, please, please. There are like, don't deem them as rules, unless we're talking about like electronics and stuff. There's some rules to that. But like when it comes to like everything else, I'll always like look at what they're doing, and it's just so freaking cool. So definitely upgraded the way I look at things just by working with people like that. I find I'm like, I wouldn't really count myself as an instructor, but more of like a facilitator for us all to learn. It's kind of awesome. So, yeah.
Do you think because we're relatively young, how that's pretty inspiring in itself to be teaching a new generation the skills that are probably not things that everybody's going to seek, which is kind of like you get to have this unique group of people to share your knowledge to, which is at the end of the day what all creatives want, is to express something to somebody else and have them run with that and love it. So I think it's kind of a beautiful concept that it kind of went that way, and that you guys have your own company going, and you put on events as well, which is, I know how hard that is, and that is not an easy battle. So it's a beautiful thing to see new studios coming in, because we do have studios in Kelowna, but I feel like they're almost too structured. You know, you got to go in. Here's your hours. You don't get that one-on-one with the producer as much as you would working with you guys, because you're running your own thing and you have your own ability to do what you want with the artists you choose to work with, versus just being hired to be doing somebody's song. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure you get to vet who you want to work with, because you're not just going to want to work with anybody. If you're not vibing with the project itself, it's going to be really hard to want to put that soul into it and that energy into it.
Absolutely.
Have you ever had that where you've dealt with, I'm just not vibing this project?
Absolutely.
I'll let you speak to that.
I'm not going to describe anything too thoroughly. Yeah, I mean, there's been things where it's just like, there's only so much you can do to satisfy a certain person, you know? Like, it gets, the artists are always going to be their worst critic, and like, I could do what I believe to be a really good job, and what I have, you know, peer reviewed to be a good job, and it's just like whatever is in the artist's head that, you know, has been like brewing for a while, they're going to be self-conscious about and want to like hope that in the mix or the master or whatever side of production we'll just be able to fix that thing. But so there's definitely been moments like that where it's like it's hard to enjoy something when it becomes only technical like that for the sake of fixing something, rather than like creating, you know. It's almost subtractive in like the wrong way, where you're like, I need to like bring back my own creativity just to like fix a technical thing that like isn't even noticeable to other people probably.
Yeah. No, I feel that. You kind of made me think of like right at the beginning too, where like your mix is like the constant. I've had to deal with it, so I know from experience the constant like, oh, can you add this to the song? And you're like, it has that on the song. Like you literally asked for reverb on vocals, and there's reverb on your vocals. Do you just want it like saturated to the point where it's obsessive and annoying, or do you want it to be subtle? Because that's where I think artists need to separate themselves from their art and let the producer do their art to the project. You can't. That's where it's like. It's where I was saying earlier. Like I have a hard time being the composer, the artist, and the producer, because I'm never going to get anything done.
Yeah.
Like I will never get anything done to the point where it happened for years. Like I have 4 albums that are unreleased because of that exact concept.
Yeah.
And if I would have had somebody that I could just be like, hey, you're the guru. Can you help me with this? I think it would have been a lot easier, but I'm very stubborn. I think a lot of artists are, especially hip-hop artists.
Yeah.
We can be very stubborn. It's not like it's when you're dealing with bands and you're dealing with like instrumentals and a vocal, there's not much you can do with an instrumental if they're wanting you to change that.
Yeah.
Like you brought me a finished product, and your performance, and
Yeah.
I'm blending the
So
two.
like, you got two things to work with. Yeah.
Can't do a lot there. Do you get to? Have you ever got to compose for an artist where they're like, because you're saying you work with solo artists, where you get to build the band behind them for their albums?
I mean, to some degree, like we do a lot of band sessions, but they're usually actually the last one we did, they were like super well rehearsed, and it was like we were kind of just in and out, like they had it. We didn't have to do a whole lot of that.
Oh, yeah.
But there's been lots of times where like we've hired a piano player for the artist, or the artist has hired it through us, I guess technically. And it's sort of like working with what the artist originally had envisioned without like sheet music written or anything. We kind of have to work with the piano player to get that going. So I guess to some degree there's some level of composition with a band.
I'll also add that. Sometimes also I love like playing around with if like an artist is like lyrically just having a difficult time and they're like, how do I fit this in or whatever, kind of like helping them change a transition or change like a little bit about the melody or the lyrics or whatever to like make it flow. Oh, I love those moments. So satisfying. But yeah, most of the time we just let the musicians we hire do their thing. And we obviously make that known to the client that we're working with. And they're like, yeah, 100%. If they play piano, let them play piano. And like 9 times out of 10, it's actually at 10 times out of 10. I don't think we've ever had like a terrible anything with anybody.
musicians
We've
are
been
always
so
great.
lucky. The musicians are amazing. So yeah, yeah.
It's a beautiful thing to see that relationship between producers and artists, especially when you find one that you work well with, that knows you, as in like you've worked with them a couple times, and now you understand the way they work in studio. I think that's why I gravitate to my drummer in the band, in my metal band, is he, even if he's not doing metal, just what he produces just sounds so different than everybody else that I just like almost like his sound more than what like mainstream sound is now. Especially when you're dealing with metal. I don't know if you guys are huge in metal, but it all sounds the same now. It just sounds super generic. All the tones are the same. There's no difference between like guitar players' sounds.
Yeah.
It's what sells. It kind of killed that vibe, and I still think that rock and roll and punk rock still have that in it, and same with a lot of solo artists. I'm not a big solo artist lover, but there are a handful of artists that I love, like Matt Anderson. He's one of Canada's greatest blues artists, and I've seen him perform 3 times, and every time he brings quite literally a tear to my eye, just because he doesn't need a band. Him and an acoustic guitar and a microphone will make you cry. I feel like that's almost more powerful than having like this fully dynamic functioning band that's just amazing at what they do, but there's just no soul to it. You know what I mean? So musicians are a fun breed to work with, like you were saying.
Yeah.
They're so many different people, but they're all creatives.
Yeah.
What's been your guys' biggest struggle point to this day that you've had with being a producer?
Do you have anything that jumps to mind?
I think it would be, and this also goes to myself as an artist, like, but being and also as a producer dealing with like indecisive artists who aren't really sure what they want yet. I feel like if you aren't sure, then you should probably go write something else or add to it until you are, or take away from it until you are. Who knows? And then that's when you call in, hey, I want this song to be recorded and produced, and we are in the process of making this song that I already know as good, and already have like an idea in my head to make it sound. Now I'm going to take it to you guys, describe a little bit of how how I want it, and trust that process. That and then again, this I can totally mirror right back at me. You know, for this is separating yourself from that art, as what you said earlier. Having artists who are like super emotionally attached to a song, absolutely love that. Let's capture that in the recording, 100%. However, After that part, you just have to let it go and just trust that it's out there and you've expressed that feeling already. And now it's time for other people to enjoy the feeling that you've created for them. And then continue to create after that, because creating is so good for you. It's so good for you. So don't stop at that one. Just keep going, and let us do the finishing product so that you can keep going. So, yeah.
I think a good way to say it is there's carpenters who build the houses, and then there's the finished carpenters.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? You guys are the finished carpenters. You come in and put all the little details that everyone's going to fall in love with that will make the house look good. And I think that it's hard even for tradespeople to do that separation of like, well, we did all the work, we did all the cleaning of the job site, and you guys come in and everything's done, you get to do it. But artists, I don't think, realize that, like you were saying, there's a fine line of where you need to let your art live and breathe. Like, you can't hold on to that emotion and be like stingy with it. You're meant to feel that while you write it, and then when you get to the point where it's recorded, you need to let it have its wings like a baby and your kids and let them go. Otherwise, it just sits there and doesn't help anyone. And I think that on the other side too, it's also hard for artists, where a lot of artists nowadays aren't really focusing on their production value. They're just recording songs at home and throwing it out there, and they're making millions of streams. Does that leave like or bother you as a producer? Does that bother you that, how do I phrase this properly without it sounding rude towards artists? Because you know what I mean? Like, your skill set is being overlooked so that they can get these streaming numbers, but it's like, just wait a little bit and get the production value because it'll live longer. Do you see that that's happening more and more?
Yeah, I understand what you mean. I kind of embrace it because I like a lot of that sort of raw sound in certain music. I mean, I guess that there's some songs where I'm like, oh, this should have just been fully produced and recorded and it would have sounded better. But there's also a lot of songs where it's just like some guy in a ukulele in his bedroom. Like, this sounds awesome because it's just his real emotion in that moment. So for the most part, I embrace it. I mean, on a similar topic, I think I'm more irritated by like using AI to produce something than just spending money on full production.
I haven't even thought of that.
I would rather somebody have no production at all than like use AI to like just like do it in a jiffy on a computer,
I've actually haven't got to speak with a producer on AI. I've spoke with artists and stuff, and you brought it up. How do you see that transcending?
I think the first thing that people will use it for most is mastering, because a lot of people have learned how to do a lot of the mixing stuff on their own, just with FL or whatever, like, and a Focusrite, and that's like all you really need for a bedroom setup. So I think a lot of people have learned to do that on their own, but mastering is sort of a mysterious beast to a lot of people, so they aren't comfortable doing it themselves, but they don't want to spend the money. So, and there's already services where you can upload it and get like I think a lot of them are free too. It's just like, here's a quick master. But I've seen how those sites work and I've tested them out and everything. And I can tell a difference, but maybe that's just because I do mastering too.
I think mastering is like you said, it's a whole other beast, because I don't think people really fully understand what mastering does. They're just like, oh, it makes it louder. Not really.
And that's kind of what the like AI websites where you upload do. It just sort of crushes it and makes it loud, and it's like, there you go, there's a master.
That's what masters. Yeah, and that's where it's like, I can see that being. I think that's where it's like it's becoming such a popular thing in the industry in general. Where at first, like, I had no opinion on it. I still kind of don't have an opinion on it, just because I'm not smart enough to have one. Because like, I don't know what robots are doing. You know what I mean? Like, the technology is just it always advances. I'm kind of like, we got to adapt to it, but at the same time, from speaking with artists like painters and stuff, and being someone who has used AI art for like flyers for shows and stuff, because it is very difficult to drop $300 on a flyer when you're not going to recoup that as a business person. It's not a good business model. But when I see artists using AI for their album covers, I'm That's where I kind of
Yeah.
like, I'm like, yeah, I start to draw the line there because,
I don't want to sound completely bitter either, just to clarify.
oh,
Like
no.
there's AI uses that are 100% valid. Like there's even in certain plugins there's just, minor tools that are, it doesn't take away from your own efforts and creativity. It's just, there's uses for it.
Yeah.
Also, I kind of feel bad for the artist. Like, that's a missed opportunity. Missed opportunity to further express really what you're feeling. Like, so it's not only taking away from like the consumers it being no, it's taking away from audience, um, your audience's authentic version of you as an artist. So I don't know, do it for the people and do it for yourself.
I think it was a valid point, and it's something that I don't think I've ever actually, like, you hear it from everybody's perspective, but I fully agree. Like, get somebody to master your stuff, or at least learn how to, or at least even half-assed try and learn how to do it, because it's yours. You did it. You know what I mean? Or like somebody you trusted did it, because you don't want to lose that. So, like, especially with music, that's one thing where I'm like, that is such an emotional based this expression of art. Like, painting is expressive and emotional, but like music people run to when they're depressed, when they're happy, when they're getting married, when they're at funerals. You know what I mean? Like, it's in every aspect of our life, and to lose that humanity behind it to technology is a scary concept. And you even see it now happening with AI. It's music that is being created and makes more streams than people who wrote music. And I think my opinion is it'll get to a point where it just becomes blah, and that real music starts to come shining through again. It's like a year or two, 3 years of it, we'll have to deal with it, and then all of a sudden it'll go back. But I don't see it ever taking that heart
Yeah.
out of it. You know what I mean?
Even just in a mix, I think a lot of, there's sort of like soulless pop music or something like that, where it's like its mix and master is mostly technical, rather than, there's already music that isn't made with AI that you just can't feel the humanity in it very much. Not to throw shade on any genre or anything.
No, I agree.
It's just the nature of it. But I think if you think of like, I don't know, like the Beatles or something, if that was mixed with AI, mixed and mastered with AI, it wouldn't sound anything like the Beatles. It would just be like, there would be you wouldn't feel the humanity in it, I think. So I don't think it'll ever get to a point where it will be indistinguishable from the people that do it for real.
Yeah, at least not music, like video, and that's definitely already getting to a point where you're like, I can't tell if that's real or not. I'm just not gonna
Yeah.
fully believe that.
Well,
Right.
maybe
so,
I'll walk back my point then. You're right that's gotten so convincing. Maybe eventually the AI will be smart enough to add those like such, sort of non-perfect human elements to it. But
such a weird time.
yeah.
We live in such a weird time, and honestly, it just, if you take a step back from it and actually think, like, we have computers that are making music nowadays that is like just as good as what we do, but it's not. It's hard to describe. It's a weird concept.
Yeah.
I love where things go. It's just mind blowing, constantly evolving, especially with like even with like production, because you used to just do like video and albums, but now with the emerging, like, since at least 2020 or before, with podcasts, they've blown up, and that's a whole other industry that you can get into as an audio engineer that I don't think a lot of people think of. Or video games, like
Yeah.
engineering audio for
Audiobooks, even.
yeah,
That's
right?
huge.
Like,
Yeah.
If you get like a job with like anybody who's narrating like a series of books, you are good. You got a job for like a while.
I think a lot of people
Books
just
are
think of
huge.
production as like music.
Yeah.
And
Oh, sound is everywhere.
sound design too,
Sound
right?
is everywhere. Sound design.
Do you ever mess around with just random things to make unique sounds?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, we've joked about that before too. It's just like we're just big dum-dums, just like cool sounds, just
Yeah.
like cool noises. Yeah.
That's
Obviously,
awesome.
There's more to it than that. But
No, it's the best. I think one of my favorite type of sound design is taking just like random recorded elements, like with your field recorder, like a door closing or like some birds flapping in the wind or whatever, and like layering them and turning them into something so different. I just love that. It's like yeah, I don't know. I think that's where almost the passion for production more comes out of me instead of just into the music. Like sound really can just be anything. It's awesome. Sorry.
I love getting to pick your guys' brains because I do enjoy and understand a lot of elements of production, but it's also, like you said earlier, like it's a big enigma to me. Like mixing and mastering are two things that I'm like, put them behind the closet and don't look at them, right? Like they'll figure themselves out. It doesn't work like that. And the skill set that you have to be a producer and the patience you have to be a producer, they're some of the most calm people you'll ever meet. And I think that's like a reoccurring thing I've noticed with producers that I've worked with over the years is they're all super laid back. There's
Well,
no
our
like
mutual friend Alex, too. Very, very chill.
very
human
laid back.
being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I kind of was excited to get to sit down with you as guys as well, because you both do the same job, but he does it with podcasts. And for me, podcast was kind of like that's a weird one. I'm still like, people get hired to mix and master podcasts? Like, how do I get into that? Because that would be a wicked job on the side, but I'm not a good mixing master. So it's like, to see where like what I always thought was just based around music being used in so many other facets of the art industry is kind of mind-blowing to me. And you do live sound as well, which is a whole other ball game. Do you both do live sound?
That's definitely more her thing. I don't
Live?
know if you have anything to add.
Live sound is, as a musician, I always love the sound person. You have to, if you want to have a good show, because do not make them mad. It's a hard. I've tried to do sound live at the show you guys actually came to.
Oh,
We didn't have a sound guy, and I'm not a sound guy. So my drummer was there that night, and he's just like, hey, you need to go do this, this, this. And I was like, just moving faders up and twisting things, and it's a lot more difficult than just turning things up and down.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, that just sort of made me think of, I had overheard people talking about how every show, even at like major levels, like festivals and everything, every live show is just pure chaos. And it looks to the audience like it's going smoothly. But even then, it's like you're like one thing, like one cable away from like breaking, and like this show doesn't happen, or like, you know, an artist isn't on time, and now we're like have to deal with this or whatever. It's like you're always like one step away from just like the show doesn't happen, like catastrophic failure.
Yep.
But if you're, you know, seasoned at doing live sound, like she is, then it goes smoothly.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
What made you fall in love with doing live sound?
Oh man.
Because that's a total different ballpark than being in the studio.
It's like maybe it's just like the fast pace about it. I love how I love and I hate it. I love and I hate it. It's such a love-hate relationship. It's like you have to be so adaptable and quick at problem solving, and it's like I always tell myself when I'm in like live sound that like no matter what happens, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. And everyone always has a good time, and I love that. But it's the funniest thing to have how catastrophic it is sometimes, that when you're facing anybody else, your face has to be so chill, and you got to be so cool about it. And as long as you put out that energy, everyone will respond to that energy and not what is really going on. And then that gives you time to really, again, be adaptive and solve fast. So it's nice too, the transition from live to studio is that because you gain those skills of like sound check, they give you like 10 minutes or not even sometimes, depending on how many artists you have. And you got to make it sound good fast. So when it's taken into the studio, I'm able to do so like at least all the foundational stuff like pronto, so fast. And then I leave it up to this guy to get into all those beautiful, detailed mastering EQs that he makes it sound so good. But as long as I get that foundation, then every client we have coming through being like, "Oh my God, wow, that was so fast." I'm like, "Yeah, it was. We got a live sound engineer. That's how we do things around here." So yeah, it's lots of fun.
Sound engineers, like especially live ones, are good ones, are hard to find, and when you find one, you appreciate them big time. I'm trying to remember Prairie Fire, I believe the company is named, and they do a lot of the festivals in Alberta. And I can't remember his name, but I've worked with him like 4 times, and every time he just makes things so easy for you that you're not like, oh, I'm not stressed out before I have to perform, because like that happens.
Our job, though.
And you do get a lot of sound guys who are just like, because they're stressed, they're giving that vibe out, and you're like, oh my.
No, it's already stressful being on stage. It's already a little bit stressful. Like, you're in your own head, you're worried about you. Everyone's worried about themselves at the end of the day. And so, my job, you're paying me to make this the most comfortable. Like, you don't want to even think about sound. That's kind of how I like to go into it. And yeah, you get the best experiences with that mindset.
It's a good way to be.
I could say with my experience with live sound is more when we put on our own shows. But more, my role in that is usually more of a production manager than the actual live tech.
Okay.
But yeah, even on that side of things is like it's a lot of like managing the artist, making everybody comfortable and everything. There's so many things for me to be dealing with at that moment, but you got to make sure everybody's comfortable and about to have a good performance and everything. So
Yeah, I can relate to that. I think 2 years ago, I did 3 festivals, and each one had over 16 acts, and each band had 5 members. And at one point, we had 125 people that I was taking care of, and that was just the artists of their happiness. And you're like, it becomes a lot of stress just to put on events especially big events and small events. They're both the same amount of effort. And that's what I realized, which is why I gravitated towards festivals. It was, if I'm putting in the same amount of effort, I may as well just do it. But losing the venue I worked with was kind of like the big kicker, because once you have to go outside and start adding fencing and security and food and porta potties, and that just adds up quickly.
Yeah.
And you realize that if you really love doing it, or if you don't want to do it anymore. And I kind of realized that I've been putting on shows for 22 years now of my life, and I'm kind of at a point where I just want to step back behind the scenes of the industry. I'd like to hop into more like music videos and see what other avenues I can do within the music industry where I don't have to be constantly booking shows, because it's kind of, you forget, because you're so focused on the next show and it coming up that you kind of forget where you are in life. You're always on the next event, and it's hard to pace yourself and realize, like, I think that's where, like, I want to go back to being the artist. Well, also why I came back to hip hop, that ability to just write whatever I want. And I think you can understand where hip hop is a very freeing genre, as we're like rock, you're stuck in rock. With metal, you're stuck in metal. EDM kind of can do whatever you want, but with hip hop, it's got that soul, it's got the vibe, it's got the message. And if you can find somebody who can help you make that hit, like a producer who can make that hit, or at least produce beats, that's the golden egg in my eyes. You know what I mean? Do you ever get to produce hip hop beats for specific artists?
Yeah, that's actually like how that's the avenue I took to get into making music is making beats. Actually, I guess on that topic, you asked me earlier about composition. That would be most of my composing, if you will, is making beats.
Yeah.
Okay.
My gosh, I'm surprised you didn't mention it. Sorry.
Yeah, which I guess on that topic, just a little aside thing, is I feel like especially in hip hop, a lot of people don't discern the difference between like producing, beat making, mixing. I feel a lot of people are like, oh, I'm a rapper, I'm gonna get a producer. That's all we need. Which, if your producer does all of those things, then for sure. But yeah, like, so for me, I make a lot of beats, and I guess that would be my composing side. And usually when that's the case, I also record and mix and master. I usually just do it all for the hip hop stuff. Not necessarily the case with other genres, but
Are you a sample producer? Like, do you work with samples, or do you do, not, I shouldn't say samples, like do you cut from like old tracks to make your own loops and stuff like that?
uh,
Or do you actually compose, spit the beats and all of that in every aspect?
I do a lot of I'd say more sampling than not, but I've honestly done. I feel like any avenue I could take to make a cool hip hop. Yeah, I start to get a little bit tired of taking the same route to make. Just 'cause I've made so many now, I start to
Yeah.
get like I need to do something different on this one. So I'll bring up like an old sounding piano plugin and like see what I can do on there. You know, sometimes I've tried to make something that sounds like I've chopped a sample when it's not, just to add an extra little bit of character. Yeah, I feel like I've taken every avenue on that.
Love that, because sampling producers are like, that's a whole other level. You have to understand so many more genres than most people do, and understand like my single, I think it was Watch Out. The sample I used for it is from like a 1934 Korean jazz song, and no one will ever know what it's called because it's literally not even in an English name. But it had the coolest little 1 second of sound.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I took that, manipulated it, and it came to being this like cool lead for the song, and I was like, all right, I'm going with it.
Yeah.
And I love those moments of where you're starting off with a blank slate, and at the end of it, you're like, whoa, what did I
Yeah.
do? This is so cool.
It's almost like it does it itself, and you're just here to facilitate that happening.
That was a good point, because a lot of artists say that like when they're creating, it's not them.
Yeah.
Like there's something that's taking over them. Like when they're writing their lyrics, they don't know where it's coming from, or like the melodies come from. And I'm like, that happens as a producer too.
Yeah.
Like there's a spiritual element when you're focused on these frequencies that are presented in front of you in a DAW, and you're seeing them visually, but like the visual representation that you're seeing on the computer is audibly coming in and creating this thing, and then that fires your brain to like hear different elements that they didn't or would never, like we were saying earlier, the ear candy, that's just kind of like, whoa, did not expect it to come out that amazing. And it wouldn't have if the producer didn't have that like spiritual connection to the project they're working on.
Yeah.
I guess it's the easiest way to wrap that
Yeah,
around.
for sure.
With your guys' careers up to this date, what's been your favorite project?
What's been your favorite project?
Oh my gosh. Oh my god. There's so many. There's so many. I liked so many of them. Oh man, it's very tough to choose, but I'll go with one of our more recent ones. Our more recent faves. Okay, it's Home by Adoku. He is absolutely amazing. I loved working with him on this one. He's so laid back, easy to work with artist, number one. So extremely talented. He brought in a band. Where were they from?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh man, maybe Kamloops, I think. Band from Kamloops. And they had a talking drum and a saxophone and another drummer and then a guitarist and a bassist and a keyboardist. And wow, they rocked it out of the park. Then he brought a choir in. We layered on a bunch of different vocals. Had so much fun recording it. And then like he nailed the main vocals, the lead and everything. And you made it sound awesome. Great job. And yeah, it was just so all around a great time. He, yeah, rocked it with that one. And the experience was so amazing to be part of the whole time. 10 out of 10. What about you?
I think my favorite recent one is an artist named Brent Apple. He goes by Sugar Lump Applegath, but his name is Brent Applegath. He's sort of like a Americana blues, soul, folk, just, you know, sort of a mix of genres. But he brought in a band, and it was it 2 guitars, Applegath playing one of them. Bassist and percussionist was just on it like a cajon.
Oh, cool.
And it, from the beginning, was never meant to be like a super polished sound or anything. It was supposed to be sort of raw, and I think that made it even more fun for me because it was just like there was no holdback really. I didn't have to worry about it being like absolutely like radio polished hit kind of sound. So that one was a lot of fun to me. Usually the ones that I like the best are the ones where I'm the most involved in all of the steps, I think, because I can just be fully creative the whole way through, and there's no like something's wrong at one point and I have to like be too technical to fix it over here. It's just like I can make sure everything is fluid and goes smoothly. So yeah, that was probably my favorite.
That was a good one.
That's awesome. I find that it's a cool experience to hear other people's favorite moments in music because no one's gonna ever have the same one. Like you get to work with, pardon me, you get to work with so many different diverse artists and styles and genres of music that not everyone will hear too, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's been a lot of really unique artists that have come through and that you've dealt with. What is your favorite genre to produce at the moment? Because I know it changes.
Yeah. I think for me, it's probably always going to be like at a base level hip hop because it's what I started with, and it's just like I'm so comfortable with it. But like I was saying, I get sort of tired of doing the same thing after a while. So every now and then I'm like, we're working on something different. I'm like, oh, like I could do this every day, and it would be just as sort of creative, and I would enjoy it almost just as much as my sort of initial love and interest of hip hop. So. Yeah, probably hip hop at a baseline, but that sort of like bluesy sound we were doing, I really like as well. I love like old soulful. That's usually what I sample in the hip hop stuff too. So, yeah, like if I ever get a chance to do any like soul blues related stuff, I'm like all about it.
Yeah, I would definitely also say like bluesy stuff and jazzy stuff. Especially like lately, we're working with this guitarist and like bossa nova jazz writer named Jude, and like his guitar skills are top tier, but he's got like that rhythm with it, the fingerstyle picking vibe, and we had him in here and literally he was just like, oh, what if I just start doing this? And I was like, great, keep going. And so I EQ'd his guitar just a little bit on our board right there. And I was like, ooh, yeah, okay, there's the life. And I just hit record as he was still playing. And he played for like, he added little tricks here and there, and he played for like 3 minutes. And I'm like, perfect, there's a song already. And so we just built on top of that and stuff. And yeah, it was just like, I feel like it came so easily. That, and then a few other times that we kept going with like that jazzy route, but blues just has so much soul. So either or. Right now, that's so much, so awesome. So yeah.
That's fun. Has that changed as you guys have aged?
Yeah.
Did you enjoy doing like punk rock and rock before, and as you've aged, the musicianship has changed what you enjoy listening to?
I almost feel like I go in waves. I'm like up and down with that, where it's like sometimes I just want like loud noises, and other times I'm like, wow, that's so beautiful and pretty. I just like would love to mix that sort of stuff. So
Yeah.
right now, actually, I'm like, if more punk stuff came across my desk, I'd be really happy about that too. Yeah, I think I go up and down. I don't know about you.
Actually, yeah, now that you mentioned it, it really is day by day. It's like depends on how I'm feeling this week.
Yeah.
I think that's also the benefit of being a producer is you guys aren't stuck in one genre. You get to do
Yeah.
whatever you want, really.
Mm.
And you can always choose different unique characters who you work with.
Yeah.
As where like a band is stuck working with their bandmates unless they want to like kick someone out, but then it's having to learn a whole new person. But that's where I think the beauty of music is, like there is no, I always talk about it with musicians, is there's no limits to what we can create other than, I think, country and hip hop should not be mixed. Just two genres that it's just kind of like, salt and sugar just don't mix well.
Yeah.
I have a lot of friends who do it, and I'm like, oh, it sounds good. It's just I feel like there is no limit to music.
Yeah.
And it's such a beautiful thing, and it's constantly evolving, especially nowadays where everything's been done and is pushing itself. It's progressing in such a fast pace, that to be able to slow it down and kind of go back to the roots, I miss that sound. Like, I miss the older sound of recordings. Like you said earlier, it was like the Beatles. You can't get that sound nowadays. Like we can, but it's not popular. You know what I mean? Like we that is the sound you strive for, but because it's become so, there's like a structure that works, and I think it based itself off EDM. Honestly, EDM was what created the industry standard of what music needed to be too, and then you see pop music become same volume, same, everything is the same. Metal is now doing that, where it's all the same sound, and I kind of miss that freedom of ear that producers had, where they didn't have to make it industry standard. I hate that. It drives me nuts.
Oh man, I actually, adding to that, I feel like.
You got this one.
Okay. I feel like adding to that, I've noticed a trend of a lot of people thinking, like very like-minded people saying the same thing. And there's this student that I was working with last year. His name's Andrew, and he's just amazing. He had moved to Montreal just recently, and he started up his small business of Just Press Play, and it's solely about searching for those local artists in those towns, and maybe it grows into being a more indirect as well. But the concept is about those artists just letting it go, kind of having more like a live recording set, and having like its raw elements shine the most in that production. And I think that's so awesome and so cool. So I hope that this continues on, because I love the trajectory where it's going, because that is slowly everyone's slowly kind of picking up on that. That's great.
That's awesome to hear.
I could just also add to what you're saying about having that sort of like analog Beatlesy sound, like we were talking about, is actually sort of the whole idea with SoulTech of like that's where the name and the logo comes from. The logo's like, you know, a big vinyl record with a banner across it behind us there. But it's also very like sleek and gold and minimized. It's sort of that cross between like an analog rough sound and the polished new modern sound. We like to try and bring that. That's why we have analog gear and everything. We try and bring that sort of, you know, original studio sound back to it a little bit. So just thought I'd mention that. You brought up
No, I think that's a beautiful thing, because I think that's what's honestly lacking. And I don't think people realize that unless you're like a musician and you've dealt with analog and digital and you've gone from the two, you won't really hear a sound.
Yeah.
But there's a body to analog, as where digital is very like mono. It's very flat. That's where you have to like pump EQ into it, because it's like before you'd have to take frequencies away, because now you have to pump everything into it because it is flat and it's not based off of actual instruments and analog machinery, which is kind of a sad thing. That's where it's like, that's what I was saying earlier, like we've always kind of as musicians had to adapt to AI taking over, because we went from analog to now digital to like, what's next? Well, it's always going to be an adaptive industry. That's where I think all the other art form industries are just starting to hit that.
Yeah.
Like they never had to battle that technological like takeover in their art industry, as where it's happening now, and they're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
We've slowly dealt with it for the last 50 years.
Yeah.
It's been evolving, and now it's at a point where like anyone can record from home.
Yeah.
Which is a great freedom, but I don't personally think everyone should have said freedoms to record at home. I think that leave it into the hands of the people who are meant to do it, because like I'm not meant to build cars. I wasn't meant to be a mechanic. You know, I'm meant to be a musician, so I'm good in my lane.
Yeah.
I think everyone kind of, you can be good at what you do. Don't try and be good at everything, or else you're going to take away from what you're good at.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing I've recently learned is, yeah, I can do graphic design. Yeah, I can do video. Yeah, I can perform and book shows, but I haven't been writing music in ages, because I've been so focused on doing all these other things that I'm like, bring back to the roots of
Yeah.
music.
Yeah.
And I think that that's, you see it kind of coming back,
Yeah.
which is a nice thing.
Any like digital media art form is the easiest to learn to do now than any other time. It's so accessible. It kind of, like you were saying, with the amount of opportunities and avenues you could go to with podcasting or video game sound or anything, you could learn to do any of it just from if you have a computer, basically. Computer and speakers.
It's pretty mind-blowing what the day and age which we live in. I was saying it was a big running thing last year and last season was the two main points that I took home from the entire year was you're never too old to start your passion. You can be 50 years old and still make your dreams. And that just being authentic and genuine with yourself and what you love will shine more than trying to like fake but doing all these things just for attention. Which is one thing that I'm very guilty of is like I'm terrible with social media. Like I'm not a unless I'm doing this, I don't really want to be on a camera because this is a great like I have conversations with people that is like meaningful and deep and for me to just like hold my phone and talk to my phone seems very soulless. So I have a hard time doing that and as an artist I'm kind of forced to do so now if I want my music heard.
Yeah.
So it has become where it's like a fine line where you got to, like I said, you got to pick and choose what you want to do as an artist. And I've realized that the music is more important to me. And if I write good music, hopefully people will enjoy it and they'll want to come see me. But I'm not really focused on making that like my whole life. And I think that that's a good thing.
It's almost like if you're an artist in the 1950s and somebody gives you the internet and they're like, here is an infinite way to market yourself, but also, surprise, it's the most oversaturated market you'll ever be in. There's like no way anybody will know what you're doing, but also it's like everybody can see it if they want. It's like such a double-ended sword.
It is. It's hard to navigate sometimes. And I think that, like, do you guys have a hard time finding new clients where, I've seen your ads online. Do you find it hard to deal with the marketing online? To deal with like Facebook and like just to get your product out there versus by meeting people and by word?
Oh yeah, huge.
For me, it's just like you're doing a creative thing with people in a room. Like you're saying, it's like you don't want to just like whip out your phone and start taking a bunch of pictures. It's like such a vibe kill. You want to be like in it with the artist and feeling it and paying attention. But sometimes we have to just like remember to like collect some photos to actually market ourselves with. So that's probably our biggest setback. Is just like you don't want to take yourself out of it, but you do need some level of marketing. So you kind of have to. You're forced to, like you're saying.
Yeah, and I feel like whenever I meet people in person, they're so much more likely to reach out than us posting. Like, even though it does get some traction, which is great, love that online marketing. But at least with my experience, like everybody who we've just met in person, had a good conversation with, built like a bond with getting to know this artist and their way with expressing themselves and a little bit about them and their backstory. Not only are we like also more inclined to reach out to that artist and be like, yo, hey, I'm following your story. I want to follow your story. And I genuinely want to work with your stuff. If you want to work with me, then I jive with your music already. And I know that, which is great. So come hang out. And I feel like steady, ongoing, long-term clients are built that way, which is awesome. Because then you kind of have a little, like, family, a growing family, studio fam, a growing studio family, which is so fabulous. So.
Which is what you used to see in the day. Back in the day with like, what is that one studio in the States? And it's like super famous and the one river. Joaquin Phoenix's brother passed away at. It was like a famous studio that everyone went to. Was
that Sound City?
Maybe. I can't remember. I know there's an episode of Ghost Adventures and they go to it, and it was like the place to go, and they had that family, and all the famous bands were there, and it's like because it was like this place where you could go be unapologetically yourself and create this music. with no judgment from the outside world, I think is what really allowed musicians to write music. I think there's a lot of stipulation on what you're allowed to say nowadays as an artist, and the way you voice it is very important, especially nowadays with being on stage and being a person who is everyone's watching you. You have to use your voice. Like creatives are the ones who we drive change, whether it's painters, producers, actors, filmmakers. That is where change inevitably will come from, is from creatives. And I think right now is the perfect time to use our voices, whether it's producing music and putting a feel into it, or the artist who's writing the lyrics. Losing that family that you were saying is what we can't do. We can't lose that. And that's where the fear of like technology taking over, I can see being a very big detriment to the music industry if it was to happen. And that's my biggest fear at the end of the day, is that we lose that soul out of arts, which I don't think will, but
Yeah. I'd like to think that an artist hiring like a producer, a mixing engineer, anything like that, would want a personal conversation with that person more than they would want the convenience of just uploading to an AI website or something. I have faith that our jobs won't be gone.
oh,
It's just
oh God, no.
maybe there's elements of it that will be used by AI instead. But
I think at the end of the day, producers are always going to be valued. They're never going to it's not about work and payment, but at the end of the day it is. You'll never be not have work. There's always musicians. There's always going to be people creating music.
Yeah.
Or something that needs it. And I think that as like what you guys do in the community, where you're building this family and you're putting on these shows and you're doing what is perfect. Like that is what you should be doing as a studio, because you want to build those connections. And I think that that's the best thing to have. That's how we met. We met at a hip hop show, and Rochelle's like, you should chat with these guys. They do a lot of cool things. And I was like, let's do it. That is more valuable than, to me, that is more valuable than like me going on and filming myself and being like 1,000 followers liking it.
yeah,
That personal connection, because I think that's what's lacking in the world now.
yeah,
In every aspect in general, but as producers in an industry where I don't want to say it's not as popular as being a musician, because obviously the limelight is what most younger people want, but for younger producers, what advice would you give them if they were just starting out, that you could give them that would be the most successful advice to help them in their career? What would you give?
I got one. Here's a strong one. You are exactly what you put into it. So if you want to be extraordinary, you continue to work at it every day and be extraordinary. Like, if you're wanting to get really good at, okay, usually when you're jumping into it, you're like, I want to do everything. Try everything. Literally try everything. And then find what flows best to you, because what is going to cause you the least amount of stress is what you want to have as like your main source of income, and supporting you continuing to invest in that role that you're playing. So yeah, just you are what you put into it. Continue to match your efforts.
My answer is going to be the same, but different sort of. I would say even if you don't want to do everything at the beginning, do it anyways. Just do everything, because you might find out that actually you don't want to be making hip hop beats, or you don't want to be playing guitar for a band, or maybe you like doing holding the boom mic on a film set, or you like, who knows, anything. There's video games or whatever. And if that's not the case, do it anyway for a while. Figure out some tips about. There's a completely different method you could use to work on film sound than you could on music. Use that in the music if you're more into music, or vice versa. You can learn things from different avenues. So yeah, my answer is the same of do everything, but in addition, do it even if you don't think you want to, because you'll learn something.
Oh, that's so real. Yeah. Yeah.
It's true. I think you have to, like I was saying earlier, like I realize what I'm good at and where I'm not, and I sit in my lane, and I'm comfortable knowing that I can outsource to people that I can trust.
Mm.
Yeah, you're solving your how with who. Yeah.
And I think that's what I think it's one thing I've realized as I've come is like I don't want to do it all myself. Like, yeah, I can. It's fun. It's probably more stressful than anything.
Yeah.
But to like have that trust and that like letting loose of something that you created is very fulfilling. And I didn't realize that until recently. How just to let something go and like get it back, and then you also got to deal with the inevitable, like, oh well, this needs to be turned up and that needs to be turned down, or can we get this pushed out through in the mix? But that inevitably becomes like the final product that you fall in love with, and I couldn't do that. You know what I mean? And I think that that's where I genuinely love producers and what they do, and sound engineers and sound techs, because there's a whole world there that nobody sees that is behind the scenes. You know, like when I'm watching a sound guy at a festival, my mind is blown at how quickly his fingers are moving on the board, and he's watching the band, and you're just like, I can't even do
And like
that.
we were saying, he's one step away from a
Oh, yeah,
catastrophic
he's pulling his hair out
mistake.
inside. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is like, those are the moments though at the end of the day, like the festival's done and you're back home and you're relaxing and you're laughing your ass off at like, oh my God, when that guy tripped out over the cable and completely knocked out the bass for 3 songs and nobody noticed, and you're like, nobody's fault but mine. Those are the funny moments that really, like, at the end of the day, have always been my favorite mess ups on tour. Is those like little stupid things that are like the things that you don't think about, like, oh, we didn't sound check our SPD. So now all of a sudden it's so loud and the sub at the beginning is just like rattling the whole crowd, and you're like, sorry. And that's where it's like having a good sound person is those moments. They're just like, whatever, we'll make it work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you kind of have to. And yeah, I want to thank you guys. It's been an incredible conversation to dive into a different perspective of an industry that I've literally been consumed for my entire life with. But it's one that I've never really taken the time to fully appreciate until I started doing it. And I've realized like how important producers and engineers are. What you guys do is it's magic at the end of the day. It really is. Because anyone can create a song and anyone can record themselves at home, but to create, I'm trying to think of the word. I don't think there's an actual English word for what that essence of music is that you guys deal with and get to hold on to and harness and give out to the world at the end of the day. It's powerful.
Well, thank you for the kind words. That was
Yeah,
so
wow.
lovely.
Oh my gosh.
It's a true thing though, because I don't think like you can't have an album without an engineer. You can't have it. It wouldn't be done at the end of the day. You know, like we can only do so much, and I think that that's where, as an artist, we need to, like I was saying earlier, we need to like relinquish that control and just trust in whoever is willing to put that time in to help create your vision.
Yeah. And there's lots of us out there. Find one that suits you, you know? So it's easier for you to let go and trust. Like it's you're building your team too as an artist. So
And I think that that's one thing that we don't think is, you look at it as like you're you're outsourcing this third party, but it's not. It's building a team.
totally.
You got to have a door person. You got to have your producer. You got to have your engineer. Like that's what you were saying earlier with hip hop. Is like most people think it's just like I hire a producer. It's like no, you have your beat maker.
Yeah.
You have the guy who engineers your takes, and if you trust him with your mixes and mastering, which you usually don't have your person mixing and mastering, because you want to have 2 separate ears for those, right? Like things that people don't know. And I think if they're not educated in that, obviously they're going to go the wrong route. So it's nice to speak with producers because there's a lot of young kids out there that want to be creative. And like you said, with the internet and the ability to learn anything at any time, that's a great thing, but there's also a lot of information out there that is not worth the time, and you have to sift through a lot of really bad videos to get to the good ones. So to find people who know what they're talking about and are willing to help especially locally, is an amazing thing.
Word.
Is there anything else you guys would like to say? If any websites or social links that they can contact you at?
Yeah.
We're on Instagram, soultech.audio_Kelowna, right? I think. Audiosoultech.com.
Yeah. Give us a shout, give us an email, or call us. It'd be great to work with you. Thanks so much for having us on here.
Thank you, guys.
This is so
Yeah, thank you.
lovely. Yeah, I hope to meet all of you who are watching. Every single one of you. No.
Every single one. Awesome. I want to thank you guys so much for being a part of this. And if you guys want to be a guest on the next episode, make sure to scan the QR code somewhere on the bottom, and we will get in touch with you. And we'll see you guys next time. I'm Rob O'Day, and this has been StoryHive On Location, Kelowna.
All right. I'm going to piss my pants. I
Yeah,
gotta
I
go.
kinda gotta go
I'm
too.
so sorry.